You didn't find this by accident. I know you've been clicking, scrolling, searching for something you couldn't name. A question you were too afraid to whisper. An ache behind your ribs that no distraction could reach. And just when you thought no one noticed, I stopped everything to speak directly to you. Not because you're perfect, because you're almost there. And that's the part that scares you the most. You've been bracing for something bad. That's what life taught you to expect. Every time things got quiet, a storm followed. Every time you felt hope rising, something pulled the rug. So now you sit in this strange stillness, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But what if I told you the shoe isn't falling? What if I told you the floor is about to become solid beneath you for the first time? You're not ready for what I'm sending next. Not because it will hurt you, because it will change you. And deep down, you're terrified of becoming the person you've always prayed to be. Because that person has no excuses. That person can't hide. That person has to stand in the light, flaws, fears, and all, and finally believe they are worth staying for. So let's be honest with each other. You've been asking for answers, begging for a sign, crying in the dark, wondering if I even heard you. But here's what you didn't understand. Silence was never rejection. It was protection. You weren't ready for the truth yet. Not because you're weak, because the truth is heavy, and you are still building the bones to carry it. But now, something shifted. You felt it, didn't you? 3 weeks ago, maybe last Tuesday, maybe this morning in the shower, when a memory surfaced for no reason. That wasn't random. That was me pulling back a curtain. Just a crack, enough to let you know the waiting is almost over. You think you want what's coming, but you don't fully understand what you asked for. You asked for breakthrough, but breakthrough requires breakdown first. You asked for clarity, but clarity burns away the lies you've been hiding behind. You asked for purpose, but purpose demands that you stop living small. And that's the part you're not ready for. Not the blessing, the becoming. So I'm telling you now, because I love you too much to let you be surprised. Everything is about to change. Not in the way your anxiety imagines, not in the way your past predicts, but in a way that will make you realize all those years of confusion, delay, and disappointment, they weren't punishments. They were preparation. Take a breath, right now. Let it out slow. Do you feel that? That's not fear. That's your spirit waking up. That's every prayer you forgot you prayed finally lining up. That's the timeline shifting because you finally stopped running. But don't rush past what I'm about to tell you, because it will take you deeper than comfort allows, and you need to decide now. Are you ready to hear what I couldn't tell you until today? Let the silence settle. Then whisper. Then stay. You've been asking me why it took so long, why the door stayed shut, why the healing didn't come, why the person never changed, why the money ran out, why the answer felt like another question. And I've been silent, not because I didn't care, but because you couldn't handle the real answer yet. The real answer is not that I was absent. The real answer is that I was building something in you that could only grow in the dark, like roots before a tree breaks ground, like a wound that has to close from the inside out before the bandage comes off. You wanted me to explain everything at the beginning, but explanation without foundation collapses. I had to make you strong enough to hold the truth without it breaking you. So let me tell you what was really happening during the silence. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. I was removing pride you didn't know was there. Every time you begged for a sign and saw nothing, I was killing your addiction to proof. Every friendship that fell apart, every plan that failed, every hope that got delayed, I was stripping away the versions of you that couldn't survive what's coming next. You think you lost things, but you were being unburdened. You think time was wasted, but you were being seasoned. You think I forgot you, but I was holding you closer than ever, just in a way your 5 senses couldn't detect. And here's the hard truth you've been avoiding. Part of you liked the silence, because when I'm quiet, you don't have to change. When I'm quiet, you can stay in the familiar pain instead of stepping into the unfamiliar freedom. When I'm quiet, you can blame me instead of looking at your own hands. But I'm not quiet anymore, and that terrifies you, because now the excuses have nowhere to hide. Now you have to look at the signs you missed, not as failures, but as guideposts you weren't ready to read. Really think. That uneasy feeling you had 6 months ago, that dream you couldn't shake, that stranger who said something that stuck to your ribs, that song that played at the exact wrong or right moment, that sickness that forced you to stop, that door slamming shut that made you scream, only to realize later it would have crushed you if you'd walked through. I was speaking. You just didn't have ears to hear yet. You wanted thunder and lightning. I gave you whispers and pauses, and because it didn't look like what you expected, you assumed nothing was happening. But everything was happening, just underneath the surface. Like magma before the volcano, like dawn before the first color appears, like a baby's heartbeat before the mother knows she's pregnant. You are being prepared by things you didn't even notice. And now, right now, the preparation phase is ending. That's why this message found you today. That's why you didn't scroll past. That's why your chest feels tight and your mind is unusually quiet. Because deep in your spirit, you know, something is done, something is over, and something else is breathing, waiting to be born. You're not ready for what I'm sending next, but here's the mercy you didn't expect. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing. Willing to let the old self die without throwing a funeral. Willing to stop asking for guarantees and start trusting the unknown. Willing to walk through a door even when you can't see the floor on the other side. Because readiness is not about having all the answers. Readiness is about being tired enough of the old cage that you finally let someone open the door. And I'm opening it now. But before you rush forward, you need to look back, just once, and see what I was really doing. That betrayal, it was redirection. That financial collapse, it was liberation from a life you would have outgrown. It was a wake-up call your soul needed, because your stubbornness wouldn't listen any other way. I don't waste pain. I don't lose details. Every single tear has been collected. Every sleepless night has been accounted for. And nothing, Absolutely nothing that you've endured has been for nothing. You're about to understand why you had to wait. You're about to see the geometry of grace, how every loss was a necessary subtraction, every delay a form of protection, every unanswered prayer a gift in disguise. But understanding comes after obedience. Clarity comes after the step of faith. You don't get the map before you start walking. You get just enough light for the next step. And right now, that light is showing you something uncomfortable. The biggest obstacle between you and what I'm sending is you. Your fear of being happy, your suspicion of peace, your habit of sabotaging good things because bad things feel more familiar, your belief that you don't really deserve a life without constant struggle. That's the hidden work we've been doing in the silence, exposing those lies one by one so they don't poison what I'm about to pour out. Because I will not give you a gift you're not ready to keep. I will not send a blessing you'll destroy with your own disbelief. So here's what I need you to hear, deep in the part of you that no one else sees. The missing pieces of your life weren't lost. They were being held. The people who left weren't taken from you. They were moved so something better could arrive. The time you feel you wasted wasn't wasted. It was the soil where your desperation grew deep enough to finally reach the water. You've been praying for a harvest, but you refuse to let the ground be broken. That's over now. The breaking is done. What comes next will feel like the opposite of everything you've known. Not because I'm cruel, but because I'm kind. And kindness sometimes looks like disruption when you've only known chaos disguised as comfort. Hold on. I will show you why the thing you're most afraid of losing is actually the thing that's been holding you back the longest. You're afraid of the wrong thing. Let me say that again, because your entire nervous system needs to hear it. You are afraid of the wrong thing. You keep bracing for disaster, for the other shoe, the bad news, the betrayal, the collapse. You've trained yourself to expect the worst because the worst has happened so many times before. But what if I told you that the thing you should actually be afraid of isn't pain? It's staying the same. It's waking up 5 years from now in the exact same emotional room, having the same arguments in your head, feeling the same loneliness behind a crowd of people, pretending the same numbness is peace. That is the real disaster, not the change that scares you. The absence of change that slowly buries you alive. What I'm sending next is going to disrupt every coping mechanism you've built. Every wall you've hidden behind. Every story you've told yourself about why you can't move forward. And that's not punishment. That's surgery. You've been walking around with something broken inside you for so long that you forgot it was broken. You started building your life around the limp. You chose jobs, relationships, cities, and habits that accommodated the wound instead of healing it. And I love you too much to let that continue. So I'm sending something that will force you to either stand straight or finally admit you've been choosing to stay small. You think you want comfort, but comfort has been your cage. Every time you prayed for ease, you were really praying to avoid the very transformation you were born for. Every time you begged for the hard thing to go away, you were rejecting the only thing that could make you strong enough to carry what I've already prepared for you. I'm not sending struggle because I'm angry. I'm sending disruption because I'm merciful. And mercy sometimes looks like an earthquake when you've built your house on sand. Here's what you haven't realized. The version of you that's coming is someone you don't even recognize yet. That person doesn't apologize for existing. That person doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. That person doesn't need constant reassurance because they know who they belong to. That person walks into rooms and changes the atmosphere without saying a word. And that person, that version of you, is already fully formed on the other side of this next season. But you can't become them without first unbecoming who you've been pretending to be. So let's talk about the missed signs. You just didn't want to admit what they meant. That restlessness that won't go away, that's not anxiety. That's your spirit recognizing you've outgrown your surroundings. That boredom with things that used to excite you, that's not depression. That's your soul getting hungry for something real. That recurring thought that keeps interrupting your peace, that's not random. That's me whispering exactly what you need to hear. But you keep turning up the volume on distractions so you don't have to listen. The signs have been everywhere. A book that fell open to the right page. A conversation that echoed your secret prayers. A dream that left you unsettled for days. A coincidence that felt too precise to be accidental. You've been collecting evidence of my presence for years, but you've been treating it like a coincidence, because believing it's me means you have to respond. And responding means changing. And changing means admitting that the way you've been living isn't working. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to wake you up, because what's coming next will not fit inside the small container of your current life. It will stretch you. It will expose you. It will require things you haven't yet given. And that's why you're not ready. Not because you're incapable, but because you're still holding on to identities, relationships, habits, and mindsets that belong to an older, smaller, weaker version of you. You can't take old wine into new wineskins. You can't wear clothes that fit a body you no longer have. Something has to be left behind, and that's the part you've been avoiding, the letting go. Let me be direct with you. There are people in your life right now who will not come with you into what's next. Not because they're evil, because they're anchored to the old you. They need you to stay the same so they don't have to face their own stagnation. They benefit from your smallness. They feel safe when you're stuck. And your growth will feel like an accusation to them. So they will subtly, sometimes unconsciously, try to pull you back into the familiar mud. You're going to have to choose, not with anger, not with drama, but with the quiet, terrible clarity of someone who finally loves their own future more than their past. There are also habits that have to die. The scrolling at 2 a.m., the numbing, the way you avoid silence because silence speaks too loudly, the way you over-explain yourself to people who never asked, the way you beg for validation from empty wells, the way you rehearse conversations that will never happen, the way you live in the past or the future, but never in the present where I actually am. All of it, every single coping mechanism, has to be surrendered. Not because I'm controlling, because those things are the bars of the cage you say you want to escape. You're not ready for what I'm sending next. But here's the hope you didn't expect. You don't become ready by waiting. You become ready by walking. By taking the next step before you feel prepared. By saying yes before you understand the cost. By trusting that the same God who led you through the valley will not abandon you on the mountain. Your readiness is not about your strength, it's about your surrender. And surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the only force strong enough to finally stop fighting a battle you were never meant to fight alone. Stop trying to figure out the timeline. Stop trying to predict the outcome. Stop trying to control what only I can orchestrate. You were never supposed to carry the weight of making it happen. You were only supposed to stay open, stay willing, and stay honest about how terrified you actually are. And then take the step anyway. I am going to ask you something most people never have the courage to answer honestly. It's going to look at the one area of your life where you've been pretending the hardest, the one lie you've been believing that has silently undone everything good I've tried to give you. And when you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. That's the moment everything changes. There's one lie you've been believing that has done more damage than every failure, every loss, and every wound combined. You've never said it out loud. You've never admitted it, even to yourself. But it lives beneath every bad decision, every closed heart, every moment you chose something less than what I had for you. Here it is. You don't actually believe you are worth the wait. You say you trust me. You say you believe I have a plan. You pray the prayers. You sing the songs. You post the verses. But deep down, in the place where no one sees, you've already decided that the best parts of life are for other people. For the lucky ones. For the ones who started earlier, looked better, spoke better, had better families, better timing, better luck. Not you. You've been waiting for the other shoe to drop, not because life has taught you to expect it, but because a quiet voice inside you whispers that you don't really deserve a life without constant crisis. That voice is the lie, and it has been your prison warden. Let me show you how this lie has been operating. Every time something good started to happen, you sabotaged it. Not consciously, but subtly. You got anxious instead of grateful. You looked for problems instead of resting in peace. You picked fights. You pulled away. You found reasons why it wouldn't last. And then, like a twisted magic trick, you made it disappear. Not because I took it away, because you couldn't trust that you were allowed to keep it. You've been so trained by disappointment that you've learned to reject blessings before they can reject you. You expect the worst, so you're never surprised. But that strategy hasn't protected you. It has starved you. And I have watched every single time. Not with anger, with grief. Because I've been trying to give you something beautiful for years, and you keep handing it back, convinced there's a catch, convinced it's too good to be true, convinced you'll somehow mess it up. So you sabotage the relationship before it can bloom. You quit the project before it can succeed. You refuse the opportunity because you're already rehearsing the failure. You stay in the job you hate because at least the misery is predictable. You push away the person who actually sees you because their love feels like too much pressure. Do you see what you've been doing? You've been living beneath your inheritance. You've been eating crumbs at a table I prepared for a feast. What I'm sending next will not let you stay there. Because here's the truth you've been avoiding. The only thing standing between you and everything I have for you is your refusal to believe you deserve it. Not your past, not your mistakes, not your failures, not the people who hurt you, not the systems that failed you, you. Your own unworthiness story, the one you've been telling yourself for so long that it feels like fact. But it's not fact. It's a wound talking. It's an old rejection singing its same old song. And you have the power, right now, today, to stop believing it. But stopping isn't easy, because that lie has become your identity. If you're not the one who doesn't get the blessing, who are you? If you're not the one who struggles, what's left? If you're not waiting for disaster, what will you do with peace? That's the hidden terror you haven't named. You're afraid of what will happen if things actually go right, because then you'd have to show up. Then you'd have to stop hiding behind your trauma and actually live. And living, truly living, is more frightening than surviving. Surviving only asks for endurance. Living asks for vulnerability, joy, risk, and trust. So let me ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself. Not with me, I already know. With yourself. Have you ever actually let yourself imagine what your life would look like if you weren't afraid? If you woke up tomorrow and the fear was gone, not the situations, just the fear, what would you do? Who would you call? What would you start? What would you stop? What would you say to the person in the mirror? Don't rush past that question. Sit in it, because your answer is the blueprint of the life I've been trying to give you. And your inability to answer is the evidence of how deeply the lie has taken root. I'm not sending what I'm sending to punish you. I'm sending it to break the lie, to shatter the glass ceiling of your unworthiness once and for all. And that process will not feel gentle, because lies don't leave quietly. They thrash, they scream, they bring out every old memory to prove they're right. They will whisper in your voice, "See, you always mess up. See, you don't deserve this. See, it's only a matter of time before it falls apart." That's not me. That's the ghost of every person who ever made you feel small, every failure that convinced you to stop trying, every moment you chose safety over surrender. You have a choice now. You can keep believing the lie and stay in the familiar cage, or you can let me take you through the very thing that will prove the lie wrong, even if it terrifies you. Because here's what the lie doesn't want you to know. You have already been found worthy. Not because of what you've done, not because of how hard you've tried, not because you finally got it right, but because I made you, because I breathed into your lungs, because I have never, not once, regretted creating you. And the same hand that formed the stars formed the hidden places of your heart. Do you really think I make junk? Do you really think I give dreams to people I intend to disappoint? Do you really think I've been leading you all this way just to abandon you at the door? The delay wasn't denial. The silence wasn't rejection. The closed doors weren't punishment. They were mercy, because you weren't ready. But the readiness I've been working on has nothing to do with your resume or your track record or your ability. to hold it all together. It looks like the kind of pain you know how to survive. The enemy doesn't need to invent new ways to destroy you. He just needs to keep replaying the old ones. The same pattern, the same type of person, the same cycle of hope and disappointment, the same collapse right at the threshold of breakthrough. You've lived this loop so many times that you started to believe it's just who you are. But it's not your identity. It's a pattern, and patterns can be broken. But first, you have to see it. Here is the specific way you've been trapped. Whenever something good gets close, really close, you do one of three things. First, you get suspicious. You start looking for the catch. You interrogate the blessing instead of receiving it. You ask, why me? Not with gratitude, but with paranoia. And that suspicion creates a distance between you and the very thing you prayed for. Not the ordinary nervousness of new things, but a full-body certainty that something is about to go wrong. And that anxiety becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You act differently. You speak differently. You push and pull and test until the other person or opportunity finally leaves. And then you say, "See, I knew it." Third, and this is the most subtle, you get bored. Right at the edge of breakthrough, the thing that once excited you suddenly feels flat. That's not boredom. That's fear, dressed up as indifference. It's your heart protecting itself by pretending it doesn't care anymore. These three responses have stolen more from you than any external enemy ever could. And what I'm sending next will trigger all three of them at once. Not because I'm cruel, because I'm bringing you to the exact intersection where the pattern lives, so you can finally see it, name it, and choose differently. This is the crossing. This is the moment where your past tries to write your future one more time. And I need you to understand, the intensity you're about to feel is not a sign that you should run. It is a sign that you are finally close enough to the blessing to touch it. You've been asking me why the same things keep happening to you, why you keep attracting the same unavailable people, why you keep hitting the same ceiling, why you keep ending up in the same emotional basement no matter how many times you climb the stairs. Here's the answer you didn't want to hear. The common denominator is not them. It's not the world. It's not bad luck. It's the pattern inside you that hasn't been healed. And patterns don't change because you want them to. They change because you finally stop running from the pain of looking at them directly. So I'm going to show you something uncomfortable. The people who hurt you, the ones you still rehearse conversations with at 2 a.m., they didn't have the power to define you. Every time you replay the memory, you hand them the knife again. Every time you let their voice become the narrator of your worth, you let them live rent-free in the house I built for my presence. They are not still hurting you. You are hurting you with the story you keep telling about them. And I need you to hear this with both ears. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is the surgery that removes their voice from your head. It is the amputation of the parasite that has been feeding on your future. What I'm sending next will require forgiveness. Not the weak, passive kind that says it's fine when it's not fine. The violent, active kind that says You no longer get to speak over my life. The kind that slams the door on the past and locks it from the inside. That kind of forgiveness is not weakness. It is the most aggressive thing you will ever do, because it takes back every square inch of mental and emotional territory you've surrendered. Which is why he will fight you hardest right before you do it. Here is the warning I promised you. When what I'm sending arrives, it will stir up every old ghost. You will suddenly remember things you thought you forgot. People from your past may resurface, not necessarily in person, but in your thoughts, your dreams, your emotions. Old conversations will replay. Old wounds will ache. Old anger will rise. And you will be tempted to believe that this means you're going backward. You're not. That's the death rattle of the pattern. That's the infection rising to the surface before it's expelled. That is not a sign to stop. That is a sign that the healing is finally reaching the deepest layer. Do not mistake the pain of surgery for the pain of the disease. The disease has been hurting you slowly for years. The surgery hurts intensely for a moment, and then it's over. Let the moment happen. Don't numb it. Don't distract yourself. Don't scroll. Don't eat. Don't buy. Don't text someone who can't help you. Sit in the ache. Let it speak. Let it show you exactly where you've been broken. And then, with me standing right next to you, let it go. Not because it didn't matter, because it has cost you enough. You're not ready for what I'm sending next, because you've never let yourself be fully present for a blessing. You've always kept one foot out the door. You've always had an escape plan. You've always prepared for disappointment. And that half-in, half-out posture has made you unavailable for the very intimacy you crave. What I'm sending will require all of you, your full attention, your full presence, your full willingness to be seen, known, and loved without running. And that terrifies you more than any disaster ever could. Because being fully present means no exit strategy, no backup plan, no way to pretend you didn't care if it falls apart. But here's what you'll discover on the other side of that terror. The falling apart doesn't happen, not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop building on fear. When you show up fully, you discover that you can survive disappointment without disintegrating. You discover that your worth wasn't riding on that one thing working out. You discover that I am with you in the success and the failure, the joy and the grief, the celebration and the silence. And that discovery changes everything. It changes how you love. It changes how you work. It changes how you wait. It changes how you receive. I will not let you go gently. It will call you to the edge of everything you've known and ask you to step into a version of your life that you've only glimpsed in your most secret, most vulnerable prayers, the ones you whispered when you thought no one was listening. I was listening. And what I'm about to give you is not a consolation prize. It is not the leftovers of someone else's blessing. It is the exact thing I designed for you before you were born. But you have to stop running from it first. This is the moment you've been walking toward your entire life. Even when you didn't know you were walking. Even when you thought you were lost, stuck, or going in circles. Every tear, every false start, every prayer that seemed to hit a ceiling, every night you fell asleep asking why, with no answer. It was all movement, not the straight line you wanted, but a spiral climbing higher than you could see. And now you're at the top of the spiral. Now you can look back and see what I was doing. Not everything. You're not ready for that either, but enough. Enough to trust me with what comes next. What I'm sending next is not a thing. It's not a person, a job, a check, a house, or a title. Those may come, but those are containers. What I'm sending is a shift in the very fabric of how you experience your own life. I'm sending you the ability to breathe in a room that once suffocated you. I'm sending you the strange, unfamiliar peace of not needing to control everything. I'm sending you the capacity to receive love without waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm sending you the end of the war inside your head. I'm sending you rest, not the rest of escape, but the rest of arrival. The rest of someone who finally knows they are safe enough to stop performing, stop proving, stop pretending. You've been living like a guest in your own life, always apologizing for taking up space, always waiting for someone to evict you, always ready to pack your bags and leave before anyone could ask you to go. That ends now. What I'm sending next will feel like coming home to a place you've never been. A strange familiarity. A deep, oh, there you are in your chest. And in that moment you'll realize something that will undo you in the best way. You were never the problem. The lie was the problem. The wound was the problem. But you, the real you, the one I made before the world told you who to be, you have always been worthy of every good thing I have. I know you're scared. I know part of you is still waiting for me to say, just kidding, and pull the rug. I know your nervous system has been trained to brace for impact. But I need you to hear me with a clarity you've never allowed yourself before. The bracing is what has been hurting you more than any impact ever could. Because bracing keeps you tight. Bracing keeps you closed. Bracing tells the world that you're expecting an enemy, not a gift. And you cannot receive a gift with clenched fists. You cannot embrace what I'm sending with a heart that's already armored against it. So here is your only instruction for what comes next. Soften. That's it. Not try harder, not figure it out, not get your life together first. Soften. Let the walls down one brick at a time. Let the breath go deeper than it's gone in years. Let yourself want what you want without apologizing. Let yourself be happy before you've solved every problem. Let yourself receive a compliment without deflecting it. Let yourself sit in silence without filling it with noise. Let yourself cry without calling it weakness. Let yourself hope without preparing for disappointment. Soften. That is the revolution. That is the breakthrough. That is the door you've been searching for. You've been asking me to change your circumstances. I'm going to change something much more important. I'm going to change how you see your circumstances. I'm going to give you eyes that see mercy in the mess, purpose in the pain, and presence in the silence. Not because the hard things won't still come, they will. Life on this earth does not stop being life, but you will stop being crushed by it, because you will finally know, deep in your bones, that you are not walking through anything alone, and that knowledge is not a belief, it is not a positive affirmation. It is a lived reality that will hold you when everything else shakes. What I'm sending next will ask you to trust me with the one area you've never fully surrendered. You know which one I mean. The thing you've held back. The fear you've never named. The dream you've stopped admitting you still have. The apology you've never given. The forgiveness you've never extended. The step you've never taken. That one. That's the lock. And the key is not more information or more certainty. It's a single, honest, terrified yes. Not a confident yes. Not a prepared yes. A trembling, tear-streaked, I don't know how this will work, but I'm done pretending I don't need you, yes. That yes is the most powerful force in the universe, because that yes opens the door that no enemy can close. You're not ready for what I'm sending next, but here's the beautiful, terrifying truth. You will never be ready. Not in the way you think. Readiness is not a destination you arrive at. Readiness is a decision you make in the dark when you can't see the landing. And you have made that decision. Every time you kept going when you wanted to quit. Every time you chose honesty over comfort. Every time you stayed when leaving was easier. Every time you watched this video, even though something in you wanted to scroll past. You have been saying yes to me for longer than you know. And that yes has been preparing you more than any perfect plan ever could. So here is what I need you to do now, right now, before you click away, before you let this message dissolve into the noise of your day. Stop. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm? That's not automatic. That's me. Every second, choosing to keep you here because your story is not over. Because the best chapters are not behind you. They are gathered in front of you like a field ready for harvest. Because I have not brought you this far to drop you now. I am not a God who starts things and abandons them. I finish what I begin. And I began you with a purpose so specific, so tailored to your exact scars and gifts, that no one else on earth could fulfill it. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are exactly on time for a timeline you couldn't see. And what I'm sending next will prove it. Not with fireworks, with the quiet, unshakable knowing that settles into your chest when you finally stop fighting. When you finally stop asking for a map and start walking with the guide. When you finally stop begging for proof and start living the truth you already know. One more thing, and this matters. In the coming days, you will be tested on what you've heard here. Not by me, by the old patterns trying to survive. An opportunity will appear, and your first instinct will be to question it. A person will show up, and your first instinct will be to distrust them. A door will open, and your first instinct will be to assume it's a trap. That's the test. That's the moment where the old you and the new you collide. And I need you to remember, the fear is not a sign to stop. The fear is a sign that you're close. Walk through it anyway. Walk through it with the same trembling yes that brought you to the end of this message. Walk through it knowing that I am already on the other side. You're not ready for what I'm sending next, but you are ready to become ready, and that is all I have ever asked of you. Now breathe, let this settle, and then get up and live like someone who just heard from God. Because you did. This message was not random. This was not an algorithm. This was not a coincidence. This was me pulling back the curtain just enough for you to see that you have never been alone, not for 1 second of your hardest day. And you never will be. Go. Be not afraid. Something is already moving towards you, and it is better than you dared to dream.